Hey everybody, this is Grace. In this video I'm going to talk about dehumanization in a way that maybe might seem a little odd to some people. And when you're at a narcissistic person or a group or whatever, when you're at their mercy. And this has been on my mind, especially today, because I went through this today. And like I said, it's a little bit different than what you might if you what you might find if you just look up dehumanization. And they're taking away, from you actually being deserving, in this, when I'm giving it, deserving of the same as others. Okay? And treating you like that. Okay. Okay, and pardon the way I'm doing the video, but it's after, it's too noisy in my home, and I usually go down to a park, but there are probably kids there, and I don't put other people's kids in my videos. So this is how I'm doing it. But this, in this, what I'm going to describe, like I said, I'll give an example because I went through it today. But how many of us have ever experienced when we're treated more like an item, okay, an item, a product or something? And this one is going to be that we have been reduced to a file chart, okay? We're not really humans that deserve something. We're just a file chart and next, Let me start off here. When I was a child, I'm going to be 58 years old in a couple of days. When I was a child, I remember my mother, I think she truly had agoraphobia, but back then they didn't really talk about things like that where I was living. And they just said, eventually they told us that she had some anxiety. And but she was one that did not want to leave the home. It was very, very hard on her to leave even her bedroom in the home. And hers and my dad's bedroom. And he had actually built it onto their house to where they'd have a bathroom, a master suite. And everything was in there. Well, my mother, she would take, I had me and my 4 siblings, whenever we needed to go to a doctor or something. Back then they didn't make appointments. We just went to the doctor. In our town, we had one doctor and a DO, one MD, one DO. Okay, and they did not work in the same practice. And usually we went to the doctor, no appointments. You go there in the morning. You might get out of there. Like you say, you go there at 8 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes you wouldn't be out of there until 5 o'clock. Okay, now imagine that for my mother, or someone with agoraphobia. Yeah, it was really rough on her. But there was always some question in my mind, too, if they, now that I had thought about it, was why? If you're one of the first people there. When I was a child back then. Anyway, so I wasn't even thinking like that, I guess. I just remember that it was so, I do remember questioning, why is this like this? So anyway, that may have stuck with me, but I do see that as wrong, especially in the day whenever people, they did start making appointments, not just there. Other places I've been to, some of them, they were all just walk-in. You didn't make an appointment until more recent years of my life, and say half of them, that they started places really were making appointments. And so you have an appointment, and then 4 hours later you get seen, something like that. Really, this has been my experience. I have worked also for doctors and surgeons in their offices, like office manager. I was doing surgery scheduling and so forth back years ago. And their concern wasn't that of the patients. When they were late, they would just go out with their buddies for lunch, and whenever they got back and there was already an appointment, their concern was not that. Their concern was about what they wanted to do. Okay, that's that's what some would just file it under narcissistic behaviors. And it could be others, but yeah, let's just call it that. Not the personality disorder, just behaviors. When it's all about them and nobody else, and make it easy, just say narcissistic. really. Because think about this. These are people. These are human beings with lives. And if they make an appointment, that is like a promise. This is when I will be there, and this is when you should be there. Okay? Now, yes, we can understand that, if somebody's appointment went over a little bit, 5, 10, 15 minutes, but hours, no. Now, if there's this thing called courtesy, say if it was a surgeon and the surgeon had an emergency surgery to go to, to be courteous is to call the patient and say, please don't come in, let's try to reschedule for you another time because the doctor's had emergency surgery. It's courtesy. Some days, some places, they don't feel that. You are under their mercy. And they don't need to, they feel, some places I have run across, they don't feel like they did, you deserve for them to have this kind of courtesy, give you a courtesy call and say it's going to be delayed or just not lie to you from the start. Okay, some of these will lie to you from the beginning to say that you actually have an appointment, knowing full well that no, you could be sitting there or waiting for a phone call, since last year, some of it is. You could be sitting there all day. You could be waiting and waiting. They don't see you deserve, or are they even concerned enough to see that you're human, you have a life, you are another person, you're not unworthy, and that's how it can make that person feel. Like they're just reduced to a file chart. You're just a chart, a doctor's chart. To see this is what your blood pressure is, this is what medications you take. And none of seeing you as a human being with lives. Each person has their own life. That's gone. And they some of them act as though they don't need to answer a question. You ask them that has something to do with like your appointment or your whatever. No, you're not worthy to them to ask a question and expect an answer. Seriously, I have seen this just the past few days, 3 days, yeah. Okay, so I might as well give the rundown on what happened to me. A short Reader's Digest version is that I made an appointment to, it was going to be a telemed, it's what they called it. They called it telemed, but that's actually I think that's a what do you call it? All to themselves. But this is just what they called it. It wasn't connected to that. Okay, if that makes any sense at all. And anyway, I made it. It was for 11:15 this morning. Okay, and I'm going to say the short version because, like I said, this has been going on. And 11:15, little after 11:15, I got a phone call from the office, and the woman said, asked me basically an H&P, just getting the, update on my health and stuff, medications and finding out. And it was just, I guess, like could have just been the front desk person, the way that office was running. But anyway, then she said the doctor, my appointment was at 11:15. She called a few minutes after that and then did all that. And then she said the doctor would call me within 30 minutes to an hour. And I was like, wow, I didn't say anything. I was being very, very nice during all of this stuff going on. And I said, 30 minutes to an hour. And she said, yes. I said, okay. My appointment was 11:15. When, noon come around, I thought, they go to lunch from noon to 1. I think sometimes they actually leave at 11:30 till 1. And so she didn't find good reason to say to me, to be courteous to say, well, it might be after lunch because we have lunch from this time to that time. No. So 2 hours later, I gave them a call, and they said, well, we've been really busy this morning, and trust me, 4 hours later, I called again, too, because like she said, call back. Well, no, still nothing. But basically, apparently it was my fault because I dared to make that kind of an appointment. And she did say, well, this is the trouble with making those. I said, no, I had an appointment at 11:15. Well, this is the problem with those. I put your chart on her desk. She has seen the chart. The second time she said that. First time she said, I just put your chart on her desk. Well, when you have a rotation, like I said, I've worked for surgeons before and doctors, and you have your patients in an order. If you take the files and you put them in the doctor's office on his or her desk, they might not see those until they're ready to go home. Okay, and if you have an appointment, because when I first called to make that appointment, she said I could have one at 11:15 or 2:15. Why in the world would she even bother to give me an appointment, and knowing full well the doctor wasn't going to call until after all the patients that were there were going to be have been seen? The doctor actually said that. And when I finally got to speak to the doctor, 5 hours later, 5 hours after my appointment, you would think a doctor, as educated they should be, would understand the word appointment. Anyway, I'm not knowing them to. That was sarcasm, yes it was. And anyway, I had decided by that time, because I'm having to walk around with my phone, which I'm not that type. I leave my phone in one room and I'm off doing things, on the charger. I leave it on the charger and I'm off doing things in other rooms. I'm not carrying it around with me, but I had to, because who knows what time the doctor will call. I mean, I could go on about how rude they were when I called, and the last two calls I had already determined if that woman was rude to me again and the doctor was rude to me, I was recording those calls, and I would be sending it to their sponsors. Oh, yes, indeed. I would be, because you don't waste people's time, and you don't dehumanize them because of your narcissistic attitudes. And trust me when I say that some of the things that were being said to me, the whole blaming the victim, turning it around on me because they're screwed up, their way of doing this is wrong, The thing about feeling like, when you're at their mercy, I know I'm not the only person on the planet who's ever felt this way. Especially if you take medication, you have to renew the prescription. And during this time, I had called another one, and they were saying that they're encouraging patients to come into the office instead of doing it over the phone. I don't know why on earth they would be encouraging. Maybe they just couldn't get it together or something to do them over the phone. They just couldn't get it together right because, Anyway, this is Texas. I'm Texan, but come on, seriously. But I do think that it's more of where I live. When I first heard about this place like 30-something years ago, it was known for, the whole town had a reputation. I did not give it to them. I just heard it the first time 30-something years ago, that people have a high sense of entitlement and the whole thing of narcissistic behaviors. Okay? And you can cut it with a knife here. No joke. I mean, of course, you can't literally cut it with a knife, but you see what I'm saying. It's so thick. Not everybody. No, never is it everybody. But it's very thick part of the culture. And it's not this one suburb. It is certain areas, and people who live in certain areas, that come to those certain areas, and people who work in certain areas, but not everybody, of course. But you can pretty much, it's like going out of a big, being in the fog. You've heard of that. It's like being in it, inside that fog is where you find these businesses, and most of the, many of them have this kind of attitude that anybody that's not within that, like store or doctor's offices or whatever it is, if they're not part of that, it's like a group narcissism, a collective narcissism. And you're an outsider, and they don't have to treat you like a human being. They don't have to treat you with any form of respect or anything. Just common courtesy. You don't just show other people that you're narcissistic, and that you think it's all about you. You have some kind of common courtesy, common respect. And don't give me that crap about respect is earned. No, you give people respect. If they do something wrong that takes away from it, that's a different story. But teaching people you don't have to give people respect. That respect is earned. Earned, really? Narcissistic much? Really, seriously. You have to earn my respect. Oh my goodness, please. Really. Anyway, but where was I? It's just certain areas. And it's not, I have lived in many places, not just this one state. In my lifetime, I used to travel a whole lot. Love to meet new people, new ways of things. I'm a social and behavioral scientist. I taught at college and university. Oh yes, I was a career freaking student. Freaking career student. And I know this place is unusual. I know there's certain areas, like I was talking about, it's not the norm. It's not even close. And I know a lot of people like to say, well, I've seen that here. Here, cut it. It's so thick. You can cut it with a knife. It is very different. I can go outside of here like 10 miles. Or actually, there's one way I could go. It's just a few miles. Totally different behaviors. Totally different way things go. The way just in any direction. Seriously, outside of this fog. This place is within the fog. Yeah, very different. Very, people, they're just not rude from the get-go. They just don't lie to you from the get-go. Like this, you have an appointment at 11:15, that here comes the phone call, but then it's going to be 30 minutes to an hour, knowing full well it probably wasn't going to be until the end of the day. Lie, 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 lie. You see? And they don't have any qualms with it. Oh, well, that's just how it is. Huh? Oh, well, sorry about that. That kind of mentality. Oh, my goodness. I can't do voices, but, if other people would have these kinds of, it's like a narcissistic histrionic blend of behaviors. Some do see themselves, as queen bee, king of the mountain, queen bee, all this kind of crap. And drama queens is what they are. Drama queens, drama kings, quite often. And everybody else is nobody. Okay, nobody. I do wonder if people can see that when people treat you like that, you're at their mercy. You don't deserve any answers to any of your questions, even though you're in this is doctor's office. You're paying for it. You're paying for this service, but you don't deserve any answers to any questions. They've learned how to just skip over them, ignore you. This doctor actually, at the end of it, instead of her saying, okay, I'm going to give you back to this person, she just said, just hold on a second. And she connected me to the person to take my money. I have seen doctors, I've actually seen in person, go in there, they're in there for less than 2 minutes. All they're doing is talking and checking off, are you still taking this? How are you feeling? Oh, you're okay? Good. Let me check this, if they haven't had their nurse do it. They say, I need to go and check to see if we have any samples. Never come back. Okay, like 1 to 2 minutes. A whole 2 minutes. Because you're really nothing more than, let me check your blood pressure, or let me listen to your heart and your lungs, and that's it. You're a chart. And then so they can write it down in the chart. That's all that's important, is that you're this chart, not this human. You've been reduced down to the chart. And now that I'm reminding myself, I worked, like I said, doctors and surgeons, and one of the surgeons was this worldwide, what's the word, renowned? You know what I'm talking about. He was known worldwide for something he created. And he came up to me one day and he told me that he had a lot of troubles in his office too. Boy, did he ever. He came up and told me, I was the more mature person at that time, and he told me that he has patients. He says he's doing too many surgeries. So he has patients on the table, and he's looking at them, and he doesn't remember who they are, their names, anything about them, because he had too many. It was, yeah. And I got it. I could see it, that there's just like a, what do they call them? Oh, what is that word? Just a chopping, not a chopping board, but, I can't think of the word. It's right on the tip of my tongue, too. Where it's just one goes down the line, the next one goes down the line. You know what I'm saying? And for some reason, the Jetsons came to my mind when he was like running on that treadmill kind of thing. If that's what it is, something like that. You know what I'm saying? Oh, why did that word escape me? But basically, I could see how he was, what he was saying, and I got an image of it. He just no longer knew who it was. And I think there's a problem with a lot of these places. They have one doctor, so many patients. I mean, a doctor seeing, them putting every 15 minutes a patient. When do they even have time to look at the chart, remember who the person is? But really, the doctor comes in there for a whole 2 minutes and is gone. And that's what this world has become reduced to. Has it? Is it like that where you live? You go see a doctor. I actually saw it. The last time I saw somebody who was good at their job, well, it was one that stood out. Maybe not the last one, but one that really stood out. That doctor, she was a DO, and I had gone to my old hometown. Here we go. A different DO, but from my childhood to my adulthood, And she sat down and took down all the stuff, and she just spent 40 minutes with me. It was like 40 to 45 minutes with me. Seriously. Now that's a good doctor. It was her first visit with me. She's not, let me just come in and say, you check, okay, and out the door. But it was the first time she wanted to get everything down, and so if I come back again, she knew knew me, I knew her. Doctors that I've seen, like I said, 2 minutes in and out. And this doctor that called today, I was really happy that I had called, because she replaced the rudest doctor and nurse. She replaced the doctor. Apparently they have a new nurse. So they replaced ones that were horrible. I had switched to another one more than once. And there's a whole story behind all this, too. But they would wait until, both that other doctor and nurse, they would wait till the last of right at the end of the visit, and then they would do like these zingers. Each one of them, they weren't together, they were separate. Because one of them she was a nurse practitioner, yeah. And the other one was the doctor, so you can make an appointment with either one of them. And nobody else was in there, and they do that. Well, one time there was somebody with it that witnessed what this doctor said to me. The nurse practitioner. Anyway. But anyway, that's what I'm talking about is, let me go back to there. That's what I was talking about. It's just not seeing you as a human with a life, and that, it's not up to you to decide, which apparently it is, that you can waste that much of my daytime waiting on you to call. And yes, I had other things to do, but I really couldn't concentrate on anything else. Because at any minute it could be, whoop, there it is. It's all about them. And really, it was just so nerve-wracking. And I wasn't the only one today that was Adam was having troubles with his own, too. It's like, oh boy. But anyway, I think that's enough. I think it's kind of long, even. But I'll talk to you on another video.